Good morning, everyone. I am Maurizio Cataneo, the founder and CEO of Artemis Biosystems, a company that is optimizing the production of viral vectors and also automating the production of viral vectors. I will share with you a presentation on our systems. This is the presentation. So we are increasing the quality and the yield of viral vectors using VHU perfusion. Perfusion is really a way to create an environment within the bioreactor where cells are always seeing fresh media, for example, after transfection, to optimize and to increase viral production. So you have an environment, a cell environment, which is conducive to producing viral vectors and also to increase the cell viability as much as possible. So we use actually a capacitance probe to check the viability, and then we connect that capacitance probe to our harvest stream. So now our harvest unit becomes an enabler of automation for viral vector production. The advantages are mainly the product quality. So we have higher, for example, full to empty capsid for the full to empty ratio, capsid ratio. And also we were able to decrease the footprint by a factor of 10 for the same yield. What's really important, our systems are especially suited for unstable viruses such as lentivirus, flu virus, COVID virus, yellow fever, dengue, and so on. So mainly the envelope viruses, because we're able to take them out of the bioreactors. You can see on the graph, if you have an unstable virus, the half-life is, in this case, in 24 hours, 24 hours is about the half-life of this particular virus. And if you're able then to store the virus by taking it out of the bioreactor and putting it in cold conditions at 4 degrees, 2 to 8 degrees, you are able to stabilize the virus, so you have a much higher yield. Perfusion is then ideal for this for this process for lentivirus and mainly envelope viruses. However, we can also use the bioreactor for AAV and for adenovirus, because in that case we're using perfusion as a way to remove metabolites from the bioreactor. As you can see, the perfusion system is plug and play. You add it to a bioreactor, very simple bioreactor. We can use it in both ATF and TFF mode. And we have a patent on this. We actually have 2 patents, US patents on this, on our process. The main advantage is that you have continuous harvesting, or you can have very fast harvesting from the bioreactor, especially if the product is unstable. And we're able to connect then also the harvest to the bioreactor using the capacitance probe. We can control the harvest based upon the viability of the cells in the bioreactor. We currently have 3 sizes: 1 liter, 10 liters, 100 liter. And again, you can see here, we are agnostic when it comes to bioreactors. So this is an Applicon bioreactor, Sartorius bioreactor, Thermo Fisher bioreactors. One of the advantages of using our VHU module, which is like a tubular membrane cell retention device, is that we are retaining cells. As you can see, cells are retained within the bioreactor. There's no leakage of cells. And when we compare it to a hollow fiber membrane in a perfusion mode, we have a much higher growth compared to the, so that's the orange curve compared to the red curve. The size matters. When using hollow fibers, you're entrapping large molecules, much larger than a monoclonal antibody, which is about 10 nanometers. With viral vectors, we're talking about 20 to 100 nanometers in size. So approximately 10 times larger than MABs, and they get retained by hollow fibers. So you really need a tubular membrane. Like our VHU, because you're able to then pass these viruses across the membrane. You can see here with a tubular membrane, a virus like a lentivirus, which is about 0.1 microns, it is capable of crossing the membrane itself, the barrier. Whereas cells, which are roughly 14, 15 microns, are able to be retained by the membrane. In the hollow fiber, the viruses are actually entrapped. The cells are entrapped, but also the viruses are entrapped within that. So they're basically useless. Hollow fiber membranes are useless for perfusion systems. Now, I have some case studies. The first one is really to compare slow versus fast harvesting. So in this particular case, we're using the VHU strictly as a virus unit. And what we're showing here is that there's a couple of ways we can harvest. Either we do a slow harvest or a fast harvest. The slow harvest is over 24 hours, 48 hours post-transfection. And you can see that there is, virus stays in the bioreactor at 37 degrees. And because of the instability of the virus, we actually get about 50-60% recovery of the infectious particles, meaning the DNA, basically in this case, in this particular case, actually is the RNA. It's like a retrovirus, is the yield, the actual infectious or the transduction, also the infectious particle, or in the case of lentivirus, we can talk about transduction, is very, very much reduced. So the idea here is to do a fast harvest, do a harvest in about an hour and a half. And what we can see is that we recover between 96 to 99% of the infectious particles, or in this case, the effective particles. The case number 2 is now to do a perfusion. We have a stable producer cell line. So we're adding media. So we're growing cells to about, about 10 million cells, 5 to 8 million cells per ml. And then we do continuous harvesting, at 1 VVD for 4 to 5 days. And you can see that if you use a hollow fiber membrane, you have a 2-log reduction. See, at day 3 and day 4, basically there's no virus going through the membrane. It's a 0.5 micron PS membrane. In the case of the VHU, you have the same amount, the same concentration of virus in the bioreactor is also in the outlet stream. So you have a 10x increase in the overall functional yields using a VHU compared to an ATF with a hollow fiber membrane. So the virus yield, also because you're now increasing the quality of the lentivirus, because you're adding perfusion at keeping high viabilities during the production phase, the virus production phase, you get a 30-fold increase compared to a batch operation. So from 2 times 10 to the 10 to 6 times 10 to the 11, these are functional virus units or transduction units per liter. If you compare actually the batch process to the perfusion process, it's quite obvious. This is published data from Lentigen. In the case of adherent cells, the yields are about 3 times 10 to the 9 TUs per liter. In the case of batch with Lentigen, we're going up to 2 times 10 to the 10. We actually validated the results at NRC in Canada. We also obtained 2 times 10 to the 10 with a smaller bioreactor, 1 liter versus a 200 liter. But if you do perfusion, you increase it 30-fold to 6 times 10 to the 11th. These are TUs per liter. You can also use our perfusion system with adeno-associated virus. Again, the idea here is to increase the cell number, right? From batch is about 5 million cells per ml up to about 25 million cells per ml. And as you can see, if you can keep the viability high, right, in the 90% range, if you can keep it high, then what happens is that you're able to increase the yields. We're looking now at the batch process. More or less, you're getting up to about close to 1 times 10 to 14. These are viral vector genomes per liter. This is at day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. However, if you're now doing it in perfusion mode, you get up to 1 times 10 to the 16. So you're going to really increase your yield almost like 50 to 100-fold by using perfusion. And this has to do with the ability to encapsulate, keeping the viability very high, because you're perfusing after the transduction. I mean, after the you're perfusing your bioreactor while it's producing your AAV. So your quality is tremendously, increased compared to a batch process. As you can see here, your full to empty capsid ratio goes from 10%, as in a batch system, up to about 40% in a perfusion system. You can see the comparison here. 30 to 40% higher titer compared to batch. Batch is the small items, the small yields at the bottom. So the take-home message is that you have high titers and high quality percentage full capsid, higher percentage compared to batch using a VHU perfusion process. And you can easily scale production to 1,000 liters. The process is robust. We've had now about 4 years of testing by various companies, and now we're using our system under GMP for clinical manufacturing. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you during the roundtable.